Hi, my name is Yusuf Gujava, and today I'll be talking about the Himalayan Blackberry. Our story starts with a man named Luther Burbank. Now, this man brought this plant overseas to California, and the way he did so was advertising this crop as a high fruit yielding crop, easy to cultivate, and able to withstand various different climates and environments. Unfortunately for us, it did eventually escape cultivation and merge with the wild, becoming an invasive species. It is a tough invader. As you can see in the map shown, it's all that green area is a place that is currently being inhabited by these invasive species. These plants do tend to prefer a more riparian area, so anywhere with bodies of water, that's where it'll go, specifically ones where it's sunny areas. The bad part about this, to make matters worse, is that even if you damage the plant, it can resprout from any piece of root left into the soil. So if you do want to get rid of this plant, you would for sure have to make sure that every part of this plant is just taken care of and dumped away before I could just recycle and go through the whole process again. More on that spreading info. Usually it's being carried by small animals like birds and and mammals like squirrels. The fruit that these guys produce is usually 30 or more seeds per fruit, and under perfect conditions, a plant can produce to thousands in terms of seeds. So that there's definitely a possibility of exponential growth and just breeding of this plant overall. And to make matters worse, the seeds are able to stay dormant into the soil for many years. So if you were to start getting rid of these guys, you would not know if you've fully done so, just because you could have missed like buried seeds that are waiting for the conditions to just arise. It does bring some ecological impact on native species. Like I said, it does hang out to bodies of water, and that does cause some issues. The first one being that it blocks animals from reaching said bodies of water just because of the dense, thorny natures that it presents itself as. It does like to spread around and hang out by these bodies of water. Thus, it'll make smaller animals who cannot fly or go around just unable to go and get their supply of water to thrive. On top of that, just because it is near that water, it would potentially increase the chances of flooding and water runoff. Just because when there's a lot of earth and plants near the water, the roots are usually firm and strong, but unlike those native plants who have been there for generations, this invasive species has thin, weaker roots, thus making the soil a lot less stable than any other plants would native to that area would make the ground be. On top of that, this would lead to loss in fertile soil and making the water quality overall go down. The way that it will directly impact us is that it can host lots of things such as pathogenic fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Specifically, it can carry and host strawberry blossom weevil. This can attack our strawberry, raspberry, and native blackberry supply overall. And due to this, we would need to quarantine and do trade restrictions as to not mess up our already uneasy supply of fruit, just because we don't want it to affect negatively our texture, flavor, our crops overall. On top of that, it can impact us as it is a fire hazard. California specifically, during warmer seasons like summer, it gets very hot, and thus like residue from this plant gets very dry. So dry items and excessive heat makes it so that things get super flammable. And the way you would identify a Himalayan blackberry as opposed to its native blackberry counterpart, you can see through its leaves. It has smaller and thinner stems. They produce smaller berries. The leaves are generally smaller and thinner. They coexist with the environment, so you don't need to manage them as much. And they also prefer being in the shade and to be more spread out in diverse areas such as woodlands, coastal regions, and forest edges. Currently, the way you control this is by making sure that you have physical and chemical control. So just cutting and using weed wrenches, or just manually removing rootstocks and by hand digging. That manual removing by hand is usually preferred. Like I said before, it is extremely imperative that you get every part of the invasive species just out of the way. And in terms of chemical control, there's picloram, and it suppresses the regrowth, and foliage spray, which will just kill the plant. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and have a good one.